Hello, I'm going to make a very quick video while I'm warming up to do pull-ups. Shouldn't take very long, and this video is one being made spontaneously with very little point or direction, and I'll quickly explain why. It's because I've never had expectations of being a tremendously popular video maker, but at one point I was getting hundreds of views and a few times thousands, one occasion 30,000 views on a video, and now I can't get 50, and I think it's because YouTube is very strange. Perhaps it's also because certain subjects are of more interest at particular times, but I just want to do a test. I'm just going to make a video spontaneously, which is what I did when I got 30,000 views on the video. Didn't do any preparation, just set up a camera and I started talking, and I'm going to see if I can at least get a few more views on this video, and if it seems to matter whether I make any preparation or not at all. Here goes. When I'm going to do pull-ups, which is one of the easier days of my exercise schedule, I just do a little bit of warming up. I'll do that as I go along. I want to talk about something that comes up in the media, and although this is insignificant, mundane little video I'm making mostly for testing purposes, it's a subject that I think really matters, because I think half the world has gone barking bloody mad, and I do believe, some people might want to disagree with me, that yes, it is possible for legions of people, millions, perhaps billions, to have dangerous misconceptions and to cling on to them and effectively demonstrate what could perhaps reasonably be defined as mass psychosis. And this is almost a delicate subject, because some people believe that what I'm about to talk about is the greatest evil known to mankind, the worst inconceivable, something that we must all dedicate every moment of our time and attention to hating, which is slightly contradictory, because that thing is hate. And the things people say about hate, if you're somebody particularly in your 20s or 30s who happens to be watching this, and I know I don't have many young viewers, then you may be horrified, because you will have been taught from an early age that the most vile thing conceivable in the entire world is hate. I actually saw somebody on Facebook who was an illiterate moron, somebody who can barely string a couple of words together. Didn't tell him that, but I told him he was very wrong. Somebody had posted a picture of some very largely built woman wearing a punk type outfit, and it had some things on it that were slogans decrying one thing or another. Did you know that these days disapproval apparently is hate? You've only got to say, I don't like that very much. Why do you hate it? Didn't say that. Just don't like it. Disapproval is not hate. Disapproval is not phobia. And in an even reasonably free society, every single human being must be free to look at anything, any event, any person, any phenomena, and say, I don't like that. And if you're not free to do that, and if doing that draws rampant cries of phobic, then it's getting pretty close to fascism. And almost all accusations of phobia in this modern era, when words are misused and abused rampantly and relentlessly, accusations of phobia are incitement to hatred. When somebody says that person is a something phobe, you're trying to make people hate them, which at the beginning of this little monologue exposes the hypocrisy to begin with. This is really just a case of loosening my 50-year-old shoulders before I try to take a bit of weight on them, and in the process works a little bit of muscle, burns off a bit of carbohydrate. Hate is an absolutely essential human emotion, and we could not survive without it. We could not have evolved without it, which is another strange contradictory thing, because a lot of people will say things like we have to evolve out of hate. Madness. They don't know what evolution is. Evolution is, it can be used metaphorically. We could talk about the evolution of an exercise type, the evolution of the dumbbell. You really just mean things changing over time. Evolution is very specifically the mechanism by which organisms may mutate, and then a given mutation that makes them more successfully more able to successfully reproduce given environmental criteria is then proliferated. So you can use really, really simple examples, and a lot of basic examples in education would be like this. You could have a meadow where you have trees that grow berries, and you have a kind of a cattle-like creature, and it can just eat berries of a certain height, and the population increases, and therefore there's fewer berries to go around, and you have the taller version of this mythical mammal can reach more berries, can reach higher up on the tree, and therefore they will over time probably become taller, because the ones that are taller that can reach more berries will be better fed, stronger, they'll win any kind of competition associated with reproductive rituals, and therefore more of the organisms that pass on their genetic makeup, their DNA, will have whatever genes present that make you a little bit more likely to be a taller version of the mammal. Very simple example, but it very clearly demonstrates it, and it's almost certain that such processes is how humans came to be from far, far simpler organisms. Don't want to go into a discussion about that in detail, but that's what evolution is. The idea that things just evolve over time, well, if we wait for long enough, we'll change and we won't have war anymore because we'll have evolved beyond it. Madness, it's a delusion, it's not what evolution involves. There has to be some impetus. And the idea that evolution involves improving is completely false, completely incorrect. It will only increase traits that make reproduction more successful. What would that be with humans? Well, a long time ago, being bigger, stronger, having a lot of money makes it more likely that you'll reproduce, especially when there weren't monogamous societies. But in this era, there's not very much. And you may know where this is going if you have seen the movie called Idiocracy, which a lot of people didn't like. I thought it's one of the last funny movies to be produced by the mainstream. In this era, there's not much. You are more likely to reproduce if you go to the right kind of clubs and drink the right kind of liquid that makes you have very low selection criteria. Really, money doesn't have very much to do with it, and nor does success in most conventional ways. Hate is essential because if we couldn't hate pain, then we wouldn't avoid it. If we couldn't touch something very hot and hate that sensation, we wouldn't learn to not do it. If we couldn't hate the sound of our child in pain, we wouldn't strive to do everything we can to keep them well and to keep them safe. If we couldn't hate the idea of loss, if we couldn't hate the sensation of hunger, we're less likely to bother to feed ourselves. And there'll be people already saying, that's not hate. It is. Yes, it is. People have been brainwashed to think that hate means sitting in a dark room, focusing on the object of your disapproval and being consumed. Well, that's obsession, probably psychosis. That's not hate. I'm going to talk about some of the things I hate. And you can always feel people who probably won't watch this video, but certain types of people who are absolutely horrified. No, hate is wrong, hate is wrong. Well, they're weird. They're cultists. They're fetishizing something. Do you know what fetishism is? You're not supposed to, because in this day and age, knowing what words means is terribly unpopular. Fetishism doesn't have something to do with wearing Wellington boots when you're getting into bed. Fetishism is when you imbue something with far more power than it can possibly possess. You treat it as though it's the most important thing, or at least one of the most important things in the world, and you probably will be almost immune to hearing any kind of criticism of it, or any differing views on it. And you can get mild and harmless fetishism. I certainly used to fetishize music, and there are certain pieces of music that I thought, as long as I could hear those, nothing else in the world mattered. Anything, any threats, anything that might upset me, I'll be okay. Put those pieces of music on and I'll feel perfectly okay, perfectly fine. Didn't turn out to be true as I got older, but it's a nice idea. Children are far more prone to fetishism. It's a kind of fetishism if somebody isn't allowed to have a toy or some sweets, and it seems like the most important thing in the world, and the truth is they'll have forgotten about it the next day, but in that moment they will say things to the person denying them the object of their desire, and it seems as though it's the most important thing that could possibly exist. Kind of fetishism, but you expect that in childhood. Could the prevalence of this fetishism of hate and of love be something to do with the fact that becoming quite mature over the course of your life is deeply frowned upon these days, and almost every cultural influence people are exposed to encourages them to think and behave in a more childlike way? But that's certainly another subject. But back to things that I hate. 20 years ago, my father died under horrible conditions, quite unexpectedly and suddenly. I hated it. I hated every second of the experience. Anyone out there who's telling me that that's wrong or that I shouldn't hate it, got something wrong with them. About 2000, I fell off a mountain bike and I broke this clavicle. I hated it from start to the end. And then 9 years later, I fell off a mountain bike and I separated the shoulder, and I also hated it. I hate it when people who I care about are unwell. I hate it when my friends are suffering. I hate it when people do horrible things to each other for one reason or another that we see internationally in this country or elsewhere. Pretty good to hate those things. Now let's be a bit more serious. Let's be more serious. And people don't like to hear this some of the time. I hate murder. I hate rape. I hate child abuse. And if you show me somebody who doesn't hate those things just as much as I do, then you're dealing with somebody who's quite damaged, quite a bad person. It's necessary to hate those things. And if we couldn't hate murder, if we couldn't hate rape, if we couldn't hate child abuse, there'd be a lot more of all of those things. Why does this matter? Is it just a case of terminology? Is it just semantics? No. But I still do think it matters. It matters to know what words mean and to understand such things. Love and hate are both as essential, both necessary emotions. And people who think that we could eliminate hate, and they're not uncommon, they should be psychopaths who lurk in corners somewhere, muttering to themselves and having bizarre delusions all day long. Unfortunately, they're politicians and they're members of the police force. They're powerful people, and they will say, we will not tolerate hate. And they sound pretty angry and hateful when they say it. Bloody hypocrisy. But they don't really mean hate. They mean, I will not tolerate views that I don't like. And they will call it hate if it's directed against something that they want you to approve of, and they won't call it hate if somebody has really strong spite and ill intent towards somebody. Of course, the most hated human being in the history of mankind, certainly within recorded memory, but I would say altogether, because when Hitler existed, there were fewer human beings to hate him. But I would say, even aside from that, far more people hate Donald Trump than hate Adolf Hitler. And I'm not even going to get... I am a centrist politically, and I'm not even in America, so I have no stake in that political arena. But if you think Donald Trump is worse than or as bad as Adolf Hitler, then I could not take you seriously as a human being, and nor should anybody. But we're not talking about one or two people who think that. We are talking about millions and millions of people. People who have very strong political opinions, and I do find them to be on what I would describe as the extreme left, where you find a lot of bigotry and something that very much resembles what we would have called fascism in the 1940s. I realise a lot of people will argue that fascism is right-wing. Well, my own opinion is what you would describe as right-wing or far-right is really just stupidity. There's equal stupidity on the extreme left, but there's also the rejection of reality and a lot of spite and envy. I call myself a centrist because I would have, until the late 1990s, been considered, let's just say here's the centre, I'd have been considered to be, I'm standing this way around, to the left. To the left. Quite a few degrees to the left, not anymore. That I would be called far right. I'm not far right. I'm not like one of these people who says, well, if you call me far right, so I am. And it's really silly. I don't embrace other people's rejection of meaning and sanity when it comes to language. And if you're right wing, you reject social mobility, all kinds of things like that. You don't want equality. And also, if you were right wing and a member of the House of Lords walked into the room you're in, you would get down on your knees because you would think that's your correct status in relation to them. There's not a lot of right wing people left. It's almost mythical in this day and age. But I would be called far right by these people, and the point is, relating back to the subject of hatred, is that they think they don't hate people, even when they hate people intensely, because they think that their hate is righteous. And that's what I really don't like. That's the point of this, taking me a little while to get to it. It's the hypocrisy. The people who are saying, no, there must be no hatred, we will eliminate hate, we must be hate-free. And they're also the people that think hate is something consuming, something approaching psychosis. It's not. It's perfectly normal. It's intense disapproval. I spoke to somebody online once who was misusing the word, and I was really disappointed because she's a scientist and she's an intelligent woman and she's taught me a lot, particularly about, as it happens, evolution and biology. And I explained to her, a bit like I have to you, some of the things I hate, that it's essential for us to hate, and she started saying, no, that's not hate. If it's hate, then you want to eliminate it from existence. Well, that's utter rubbish to start with. It's intense dislike. I don't like mayonnaise. I hate cheese. Now that will make me unpopular, but I really do hate cheese. There's nothing wrong with that. I say I hate it because if I get some mayonnaise near me and it's some's on a sandwich or something, then I'm taking a big swig of whatever drink I've got near to wash it down. If I get some cheese near me by accident in a mouthful of food, I'm probably going to vomit. I hate it. I really do hate it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's perfectly normal. I hate pop music. I really do. There's a lot of pop music from the past that I like, but these days I am only really exposed to it if watching something like, second Mike Judge reference in a video, not intended, something like Beavis and Butthead, where they play short scenes of some pop music and they're laughing at it. Sometimes I hear some pop music if I go to the local shop and they're playing the radio. It's not as it was 10 years ago. If people like it, good. That's up to them. They can like what they want. I hate it. It's a dirge. It's nasty to the ear. I listen to heavy music. I listen to soft music. I listen to pop music from the 50s, 60s, 70s, little bit the 80s. I listen to such a wide range. I would challenge anybody to find a wider range in a person's music taste than mine. But modern pop music, something went wrong. Getting off the subject. Now, back to hate again and misuse of the word. I've seen Joe Rogan doesn't use language very explicitly. In fact, you could say he talks a lot of rubbish most of the time. Somebody mentioned something about Justin Bieber on an episode, and he said, why are you hating on Justin Bieber? Let's forget for a moment about the poor understanding of why are you hating on. It's a bizarre concept. It's fetishism again. Nobody said they hated him. They just didn't like it. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. The bizarre cult-like construction that we must never disapprove of something. It's a new phenomena, and it rivals the sort of intense zealotry you'd have in a play like The Crucible. It's really, really going far, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a time when we see people persecuted on a large scale because they disapprove of things you're not supposed to disapprove of. And finally, and I'm about warm enough to go and do some pull-ups now on the shoulders. Always good to finish with some of these, really open them up. And this is one where this rather small weight is enough for you to really feel it. Most dangerous thing about the demonization of hate, the what I would describe as mass psychosis of people who believe that hate can and should be eliminated, it's the fact that it has come into law. But what they do, in a slightly fair society, you will look at something and make it illegal. Stabbing people, it's illegal. Actually, coming back to my video about self-defense and the law, it's not as simple as that. There's not a list saying it's illegal to stab somebody, it's illegal to shoot somebody, but there are things that it's illegal to do. Carry weapons in public, use weapons, injure people. They will give it terms that are beyond my understanding. But anyway, it should be explicit, it should make it clear, although, as I pointed out in the video, a lot of the time it comes down to arguing, lawyers arguing with each other in a court of law. But it should be fairly straightforward. It should be easy to ascertain what's illegal and what's not. But when they talk about hate crimes, they can make a crime illegal, they can define parameters for punishment related to that crime, but then, as they will determine what constitutes that crime. Can't anybody see how dangerous that is? So committing Act A is illegal, but we're not telling you what Act A is. We'll determine that dynamically. It's dripping with corruption. Pretty bad. So it's not just frivolous. It's not just because I am pedantic when it comes to the use of language. It's because I think there's something possibly sinister, possibly by design, or perhaps it's just because people are apathetic, careless, and they don't think about things in much detail. But the people out there who think we can eliminate hate, I think, as I said before, I think they're barking mad. And we shouldn't eliminate hate. It's very useful. And the people who criminalize hate, it's authoritarian, it's deceptive, it's inexplicit in a really dangerous way, and it should not be accepted. It should not be allowed in any slightly civilized, sophisticated society. And that's it. But just to go back to why I'm making this video, it's because I have had a lot of misfortune with some videos I've worked quite hard on. They could be terrible, I'm under no illusions. I don't think they're that good anyway, but they're enough to get more than 30 views, and that's what started to happen. So while warming up, I've just decided, of course it's taking a bit longer than normal, because once I start talking, I don't easily stop. But I can upload this video with minimal editing and just see what happens. And it's really a bit of an experiment, because my most successful video, as I have said, is one where I just set up the camera and I started talking. And that's almost what I've done here. But it is a subject that I discuss with people online at times. It's a subject that I think is actually quite interesting, important, and it does show that a lot of social trends are going in a way that I think isn't really going to be beneficial to the success and sophistication of our society in the long run. Thanks for watching. My name's Mark. See you next time. Cheers. Now I'm going to do some pull-ups on the second hottest day of this year. Whew. I'm back already. I did a couple of sets of pull-ups, and I remembered I forgot to get to the point of the story about something that was posted on Facebook. There were just some slogans talking about hate, and people were joining in saying hate's terrible, must do away with hate. And I tried to explain, and a few other people agreed with me, that it's really strange, this the way people regard hate. And somebody, a young person he was barely literate, and I am not a bigot regarding these sort of things. I have lots of friends who don't care at all about careful use of language. But if somebody's barely literate, it tells me they don't read very much, they don't understand very much. And it isn't just about reading and writing. If you can't understand what words mean, then you're not going to understand detailed concepts when people try to communicate them to you. There's no doubt about that. If you can't discuss a subject accurately, you can't think about it in very much detail. This person got really angry. He called me, he used a few insults, a few swear words, kind of funny, whereas I'm supposed to be the terrible person because I've explained that hate isn't the epitome of human evil. It's not the source of all discontent. And he said, wars start because of hate. Rubbish. I will not accept in the history of humanity that a war has ever started because of hate. Reference is made to Adolf Hitler earlier, did some absolutely terrible things, of course he did, and unless we entertain disruptions to the continuum by eradicating somebody, it would have been much better if he had died very young. Of course it would have been. But he did not start wars because of hate. He started them because of greed, because of certain policies involving other countries. He may have started them because he was racist, but he did not wake up one day and think, I hate them, let's invade them. The idea that the war in Ukraine may have started because Vladimir Putin woke up one day and said, I'm going to go to war because I hate them. It's so infantile, sort of thing a child would do. No, that's not why wars start. They might start because of greed. A friend of mine says war is always about control, which I said to him is an oversimplification. He didn't like that very much. Got quite angry. But there's often times when war is enacted to maintain control, but sometimes it's for greed, sometimes it's for profit, sometimes it's for land, sometimes it's because of population expansion. But at no point at all did somebody say, I am going to go to war because I hate them. And if people think that's what happens, then they are not mature enough to conduct themselves in sophisticated society, and something should be done about that. They should be encouraged to become better educated, and if that can't be done, then I wish they would just keep themselves to themselves and not have very much influence on other people. And now I really have finished, and back to pull-ups. Cheers.